Peace be upon you. Welcome to the Words Make People podcast. Al-Islam, Family, Leadership and Community. Muslims in the Development of Society. Chapter 7 of the book, Al-Qur'an and the Transformation of the Self and Society, by Hassan A. Shabazz. Copyright by Laylian Jamia Publications 2008. We begin with Allah's name, the Merciful Benefactor, the Merciful Redeemer. Allah, Most Gracious, the Merciful Benefactor. It is He who has taught the Qur'an. He has created man. He has taught him speech and intelligence. Holy Quran Chapter 55. Verses 1 through 4. Abdullah Yusuf Ali translation. Prophet Muhammad is reported to have said, "Seek knowledge from the cradle to the grave, and seek knowledge even if you have to go to China." Abu Sa'id al-Khudri narrated, Allah's Messenger said, "A believer is never satiated with gainful knowledge. He goes acquiring it till his death and entry into paradise." Tirmidhi 222. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, placed a great emphasis on the acquisition of knowledge. In the early days of al-Islam, the masjid, mosque, served as the madrasa university. The Prophet Muhammad is reported to have said, "Knowledge is the lost property of the believer." He also said, "The blood of the scholar is more precious than the blood of the martyr." Amr bin Sa'idi or Sa'idi bin al-St narrated that Allah Messenger said, "A father gives his child nothing better than a good education." Included in the collection of hadith by Tirmidhi and Baihaqi. Abdullah ibn Abbas narrated that Allah's Messenger said, "A single scholar of religion is more formidable against Satan than 1,000 devout people." Tirmidhi 217 and Ibn Majah. During the Great Renaissance period, lectures in chemistry, physics, botany, medicine, astronomy, philosophy, etc. were all delivered in the masjid. Al-Islam gave the study of science equal footing with the study of the Holy Quran and hadith. There is not one single sentence in the Quran or the Hadith that could deter one single Muslim from free investigation of the working of nature. Every branch of math and science was influenced by Muslim thinkers and scholars. Much of the data that led to the voyage of Columbus came from Muslim or Islamic influence. Spain had been greatly influenced by al-Islam during the reign of the Moors. Saying of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, "The study of science has the value of fast. The teaching of science has the value of prayer." The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, also said, "Teach science. He who teaches it fears Allah. He who seeks it adores Allah. He who spreads it distributes alms. He who possesses it becomes an object of veneration and of benevolence." Science saves from error and sin. It clears the way to paradise. It is our companion in travel and confidence in the desert. It guides us in the pleasures and pains of life and serves as an ornament before our friends. The Muslims were keen to preserve and codify all the knowledge they came in contact with. Education spread through the Muslim world with electric speed. During the Muslim occupation of Spain, many colleges and seminars were founded. Córdoba had several hundred colleges, and in some of these subjects such as philosophy, literature, history and science were taught, in addition to theology. Other great universities were founded at Seville, Malaga and Granada. The Prophet Muhammad said, "Educating a child is better than giving gold in charity." All the great Muslim scholars were authors as well as teachers. They were men and women bent on recording, for the benefit of the society, the exciting intellectual discussions that they themselves had made. They acquired knowledge for the benefit of society. They knew that this knowledge was needed for the long-term development of the nation/society. These men and women were people with great long-term vision. They were leaders as well as educators. The great Islamic scholar Imam Warithuddin Muhammad, W. Deen Muhammad, once made the following statement in one of his unpublished lectures in the 70s. "Society, culture, civilization, nations, are not built on any short-term program. Society, great culture, nations are built on long-range programs, and a leader who comes up to excite our appetites just for this month or just for the duration of his personal life is not truly the leader. A leader is one who thinks for the future of his people. A leader is no short-term program man. A leader is a long-range program man." The book Glories of Islam by Nur Ahmed, Master's Degree in Arts and Bachelor's in Language, published in Lahore, Pakistan in 1958, gives a glorious account of the past achievements of Muslims. This book shows Muslim accomplishments in the areas of human development, cultural development, and scientific development. When we look at the cities under Muslim rule in the so-called glory days of al-Islam, the city of Baghdad had 860 licensed physicians, 60 hospitals and 30 colleges during the reign of Ma'mun. Also in 9611002 AD, the city of Córdoba had 130,000 homes, 21 suburbs, 70 libraries, one as stated earlier had 4 million to 6 million volumes, numerous bookshops, mosques, masajid, and palaces, and miles of paved streets. It shone with public lamps. It had 1,000 public baths, 50 hospitals, 300 colleges, a university with over 20,000 full-time students, a population of over 600,000, and 92,700 shops and trade establishments. The city of Timbuktu, a city in Tombouctou region, of the West African nation of Mali, was made prosperous by Mansa Musa in the 16th century, is another shining example of a city under Muslim rule. It was a great intellectual nucleus of the West African civilizations of Ghana, Mali and Songhai, and it was one of the most splendid scientific centers of the time, corresponding to the European medieval and Renaissance eras. It was and is home to the prestigious Sankore University and other madrasas, and was an intellectual and spiritual capital and center for the propagation of Islam throughout Africa. Its three great mosques were Jingariber, Sankore and Sidi Yahya. Under the reign of Askia Muhammad I, also known as Askia the Great, it was celebrated as one of the world's most significant seats of learning. Among its most formidable scholars, professors and lecturers were Ahmed Baba, a highly distinguished historian frequently quoted in the Tariqia Sudan and other works. In Timbuktu's golden age, it was a city in which thousands of black African students pondered over the latest ideas in science, mathematics, and medicine. A fabled town in the middle of the scorching desert, overflowing with countless numbers of valuable books, expensive crafts, exquisite fabrics, and unrivaled gold jewelry. It was a community of highly cultured, wealthy people whose forbidden streets were the subject of legends and whose ochre walls were sought after by some of the greatest adventurers of the times. The unique thing about Timbuktu is that Timbuktu is and was primarily made of mud. Timbuktu's long-lasting contribution to Islamic and world civilization is scholarship. Timbuktu is assumed to have had one of the first universities, Sankore University, in the world. Local scholars and collectors still boast an impressive collection of ancient Greek texts from that era. By the 14th century, important books were written and copied in Timbuktu, establishing the city as the center of a significant written tradition in Africa. It was a great example of an Islamic city as well as an African Islamic empire of knowledge. The library at Beit al-Hikmah, the House of Wisdom, in Cairo, Egypt contained 2 million volumes of books. The library at Tripoli contained 3 million volumes with 50,000 copies of the Holy Qur'an. The library of Al-Hakim had books arranged in 40 classified sections, each containing 18,000 volumes. The Khazanat al-Kutub consisted of 370 rooms beautifully laid out in a magnificent park. With a fine pavilion, it was located in Shiraz. Libraries were not only used as depositories for books, but also as lecture halls and meeting places. The libraries were actually museums, and along with the masajid, mosques, and madrasa, colleges, served as the hub or axis for the cities. One of the greatest madrasa ever built was the Grand Al-Azhar Masjid/Madrasa University. This great university/mosque was built by the Fatimid dynasty in Cairo, Egypt, and began operations during Ramadan 975. It was named after Sayyida Fatima al-Zahra, daughter of the Prophet Muhammad. It comprises 99,062 books consisting of 595,668 volumes of the most precious Islamic manuscripts and rare books, some as old as the 8th century. Al-Azhar Masjid/Madrasa University is the second oldest continuously operating institute of higher learning in the entire world, and the University of Al-Qarawiyyin or Al-Qarawiyyin, a university located in Fez, Morocco, is the oldest continuously operating institution of higher learning in the world. It is considered the oldest existing educational institution in the world by Guinness Book of World Records. The university is one of the leading spiritual and educational centers of the Muslim world. It was founded in 859 AD. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the late leader of the lost-found nation of Islam in the West and the father of Imam W. Din Muhammad, departed from this world in 1975, exactly 1,000 years from the date that Al-Azhar Mosque was founded. As stated previously, Al-Azhar Masjid and Madrasa was founded under the Fatimid dynasty in Cairo, Egypt. In 975 AD, Al-Azhar Mosque and University is assigned to be studied by us in the West in the preparation of our community's re-education and training. Madrasa is the Arabic word for any type of school, secular or religious, of any religion. The correct Arabic word for a university, however, is Jamia. The Hebrew cognate, madrasha, also connotes the meaning of a place of learning. This over 1,000-year-old institute of learning, Al-Azhar, remains today the beacon of light of Islamic theological studies in the world of Al-Islam today. The Millennium celebration took place in 1983, 8 years later. It took 8 years to celebrate because of the intense preparation that was required to prepare the huge conference and gathering of scholars from around the Islamic world to congregate at this most illustrious institution. Imam W. Din Muhammad came into the leadership of his father's community, the lost found nation of Islam in the West, exactly 1,000 years from the date of the establishment of Al-Azhar University, symbolizing and proven that he would be the one to take the nation of Islam, American Society of Muslims, into universal learning and enlightenment. He would begin a process to teach us our original language, Arabic, and give us further instruction into our way of life, Al-Islam. The 8-year period 1975 to 1983 is the period of time it took to bring the Imams, Imam, and laborers of the former lost found nation of Islam in the West into the realm of fiqh. Fiqh is Islamic jurisprudence. It is an expansion of what is called the divine law, Sharia, complemented by the rulings, fatwa, of Islamic jurists, ulama, to direct the lives of Muslims. The historian Ibn Khaldun describes fiqh as knowledge of the rules of God which concern the actions of persons who are themselves bound to obey the law respecting what is required, wajib, forbidden, mazur, recommended, mandub, disapproved, makruh, or merely permitted, mubah. Imam W. Din Muhammad has said that fiqh is knowledge sure. It is knowledge sure. It is insight into the nature of knowledge. Where you know the purpose of it and you know the basis for it, you know the discipline for it. The 4 most brilliant eras of Muslim civilization were that of the Abbasid Caliphate of Baghdad, Iraq, c. 750–c. 1258 AD, the Umayyad Caliphate in Spain, c. 755–c. 1492 AD, the Ottoman Caliphate in Turkey, c. 1299–c. 1922 AD, and the Fatimid Caliphate in North Africa and the Middle East, January 5, c. 910–c. 1171. Under the Fatimids, Egypt became the center of an empire that included at its peak North Africa, Sicily, Palestine, Syria, and the Red Sea coast of Africa, Yemen and the Hijaz. Under the Fatimids, Egypt flourished and developed an extensive trade network in both the Mediterranean and the Indian Ocean, establishing trade and diplomatic ties all the way to China under the Song dynasty, which eventually determined the economic course of Egypt during the High Middle Ages. These 4 great civilizations followed the edict of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, who in his lifetime told the Muslims to seek knowledge from the cradle to the grave. The Prophet also advised the believers to seek knowledge even if you have to go to China. Education in Al-Islam should begin at the cradle, 3 months, and continue to the grave, death. The quest for knowledge should be never-ending, relentless and available to everyone. An example of this is the great pains taken by Muslims through the ages to ensure that not only boys are educated, but that girls are also educated. In the book, Muhammad the Educator of Mankind by Afzalur Rahman he states the following concerning knowledge and learning. Learning leads to virtue and power and ignorance to vice and degradation. Thus, the basis of preference according to the Qur'an is learning. It is through learning that man proves the value of himself and also finds proof of the existence of God. In fact, he finds the whole truth and reality of the universe, the value of thought and morality and the nature and value of the forces and mysteries of nature and how to harness them and use them for his own benefit. Thus, endless secrets and mysteries of nature and their uses become known to man through learning and research. In describing the great, central, Madrasa University of Cordova, Stanley Lane Poole, in his book, The Moors in Spain, grew almost lyrical. Beautiful as were the palaces and gardens of Cordova, her claim to admiration was not less strong. The mind was as lovely as the body, her professors and teachers made her the center of European culture. Students would come from all parts of Europe to study under her famous doctors. Every branch of science was seriously studied there, and medicine received more and greater additions by the discoveries of the Muslim doctors and surgeons in Andalusia than it had gained during all the centuries that had elapsed since the days of Galen. Peace be upon you. Thanks for viewing our presentation.